America's most innovative adult discotheque. When you walk in,
I just put a CB from Radio Shack in my...
We thought we left the 1970s behind, but what if the best of it was quietly buried and the worst never really went away? What did we lose when the music stopped, the colors faded, and no one noticed what vanished with them? The 1970s witnessed the meteoric rise of disco, a genre that brought people together under glittering lights and thumping beats. Clubs like Studio 54 became iconic, hosting nights filled with dance, fashion, and liberation. Disco wasn't just music, it was a movement that celebrated diversity and freedom. Films like Saturday Night Fever encapsulated this spirit, showcasing the allure and energy of the dance floor. The era's fashion mirrored its music, bold, flashy, and unapologetically expressive. Disco's influence extended beyond clubs, permeating fashion, film, and even politics, symbolizing a break from the conservative past. However, as quickly as it rose, disco faced backlash, leading to events like the infamous Disco Demolition Night, signaling its decline. Yet its legacy endures, influencing modern music and pop culture. Disco's rhythm still echoes in today's dance tracks, reminding us of a time when the dance floor was a sanctuary for many. Its resurgence in recent years, with artists drawing inspiration from its beats, proves that disco never truly died. It merely evolved, adapting to new generations while retaining its core essence of unity and celebration. The 1970s disco era remains a testament to the power of music in shaping societal norms and breaking barriers. Its impact is a dance that continues, inviting everyone to join in. The 1970s heralded a golden age for classic rock, with bands like Led Zeppelin, the Eagles, and Fleetwood Mac dominating the airwaves. Their music, characterized by powerful riffs and poignant lyrics, resonated with a generation seeking identity and expression. Albums like Hotel California and Rumors became anthems, capturing the zeitgeist of the era. Concerts transformed into massive events, with fans flocking to see their idols perform live. This period also saw the rise of concept albums, where artists told cohesive stories through their music, pushing the boundaries of creativity. The fusion of rock with other genres led to innovative sounds, influencing countless musicians. Despite the emergence of punk and disco, classic rock maintained its stronghold, proving its versatility and appeal. The decade's rock music laid the foundation for future genres, from grunge to alternative rock. Today, the songs from this era continue to inspire, reminding us of a time when music was a powerful force for change and connection. The legacy of 1970s classic rock is not just in its melodies, but in its enduring spirit of rebellion and artistry. It was a time when guitars spoke louder than words, and every chord struck a chord with the soul. The golden era of classic rock remains a beacon for music lovers, symbolizing authenticity and passion. Television in the 1970s underwent a revolution, with shows like MASH, All in the Family, and The Mary Tyler Moore Show breaking new ground. These programs tackled pressing social issues, from war to gender roles, blending humor with poignant commentary. MASH offered a satirical yet heartfelt look at the Korean War, resonating with audiences during the Vietnam era. All in the Family confronted topics like racism and sexism head-on, challenging viewers to reflect on societal norms. Meanwhile, The Mary Tyler Moore Show showcased an independent woman navigating her career, inspiring many. These shows didn't just entertain, they educated and provoked thought, setting a new standard for television. The 1970s also saw the rise of miniseries and made-for-TV movies, expanding storytelling possibilities. Public broadcasting gained prominence, with programs like Sesame Street and Zoom shaping young minds. The decade's television landscape was diverse, reflecting the complexities of the time. This era laid the groundwork for today's TV, where storytelling is both compelling and socially conscious. The innovative programming of the 1970s proved that television could be a mirror to society, reflecting its challenges and aspirations. It was a transformative period that redefined the medium's potential. The 1970s marked the birth of the blockbuster film, with movies like Jaws and Star Wars redefining cinema. Jaws, released in 1975, became the first summer blockbuster, captivating audiences with its suspense and storytelling. 2 years later, Star Wars took the world by storm, introducing groundbreaking special effects and a new cinematic universe. These films changed how movies were marketed and released, emphasizing wide releases and massive promotional campaigns. The success of these blockbusters led studios to invest in high-concept films, aiming for mass appeal. Directors like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas became household names, ushering in a new era of auteur filmmakers. The blockbuster phenomenon also influenced merchandise, with toys and spin-offs becoming integral to a film's success. This shift transformed Hollywood, prioritizing big-budget spectacles that could draw global audiences. While some critics lamented the focus on commercial appeal, there's no denying the cultural impact of these films. They brought people together, creating shared experiences and iconic moments. The 1970s blockbusters set the template for modern cinema, where anticipation and spectacle go hand in hand. Their legacy is evident in today's film industry, where the blockbuster remains a dominant force. The 1970s witnessed the dawn of the video game industry, introducing a new form of entertainment that would revolutionize leisure. Games like Pong, released in 1972, captivated players with their simplicity and novelty. Arcades became popular hangouts, with titles like Space Invaders and Asteroids drawing crowds. Home consoles entered the market, with the Atari 2600 leading the charge, bringing gaming into living rooms. These early games laid the foundation for complex narratives and immersive experiences in later decades. The 1970s also saw the rise of game developers and designers, turning a niche hobby into a burgeoning industry. Despite technological limitations, creativity thrived, with developers pushing boundaries to create engaging gameplay. The social aspect of gaming emerged, as friends gathered to compete and collaborate. This era set the stage for the gaming culture we know today, where video games are a significant part of global entertainment. The 1970s were just the beginning, but they ignited a passion that continues to grow. The pixelated pioneers of this decade paved the way for the immersive worlds we now explore. Their influence is a testament to the enduring appeal of interactive storytelling. In the 1970s, a quiet revolution unfolded on America's sidewalks and trails as millions embraced jogging, transforming it from a niche activity into a national obsession. This surge was largely fueled by Jim Fixx, whose 1977 bestseller, The Complete Book of Running, extolled the physical and psychological benefits of the sport, promoting it as a path to improved self-esteem and stress management. Fixx's advocacy helped demystify running, making it accessible and appealing to the average person. The movement's reach was so extensive that even President Jimmy Carter was among the estimated 25 million Americans who took up running during this era. This boom not only spurred a proliferation of road races and marathons, but also catalyzed the growth of athletic apparel companies eager to meet the newfound demand. Running clubs popped up in suburbs and cities alike, turning solitary exercise into a social phenomenon. Sneakers evolved rapidly in design, with companies like Nike and Adidas recognizing runners as a new and powerful consumer base. Weekend warriors and professionals shared the same tracks, blurring the line between sport and lifestyle. Advertisements celebrated lean, tan bodies in short shorts and headbands, framing fitness as both aspirational and patriotic. What began as a trend became a philosophy of self-care, endurance, and transformation. However, the movement was not without its ironies. Fixx himself died of a heart attack while jogging at the age of 52, a poignant reminder of the complexities of health and fitness. Nonetheless, the 1970s running boom laid the foundation for today's fitness culture, embedding the notion of regular exercise into the American lifestyle. The 1970s marked a pivotal decade for women's rights in the United States, characterized by significant legislative and societal strides toward gender equality. Building on the momentum of the 1960s, the women's liberation movement gained traction, leading to the establishment of the National Organization for Women, NOW, in 1966, which played a crucial role in advocating for women's issues. Key legislative victories during this period included Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, which prohibited sex-based discrimination in federally funded education programs, and the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision in 1973, which affirmed women's reproductive rights. Additionally, the Women's Educational Equity Act of 1974 aimed to combat sex role stereotyping in schools, further promoting gender equality in education. These advancements were not without resistance. The proposed Equal Rights Amendment, passed by Congress in 1972, faced significant opposition and ultimately failed to be ratified by enough states. Women flooded into the workforce in unprecedented numbers, reshaping not just office dynamics, but the broader economy. Magazines, talk shows, and public forums became battlegrounds for fierce debates over gender roles and expectations. The phrase, "the personal is political," echoed across campuses and living rooms, fueling both progress and backlash. Figures like Gloria Steinem and Shirley Chisholm emerged as household names, challenging centuries-old structures with intelligence and conviction. The visibility and activism of the 1970s not only opened doors, it forced the nation to reconsider its very definition of equality. Nonetheless, the 1970s laid the groundwork for ongoing efforts toward gender equality, with the decade's activism and legislation continuing to influence contemporary discussions on women's rights. The 1970s witnessed a burgeoning environmental consciousness in the United States, catalyzed by growing public concern over pollution and ecological degradation. This awareness culminated in the first Earth Day on April 22, 1970, when an estimated 20 million Americans participated in demonstrations and educational activities nationwide. Spearheaded by Senator Gaylord Nelson and activist Dennis Hayes, Earth Day aimed to harness the energy of the anti-war protest movement to promote environmental protection. The event's success led to significant legislative achievements, including the establishment of the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and the passage of landmark laws such as the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. These initiatives marked a shift in national priorities, embedding environmental considerations into public policy and laying the foundation for future sustainability efforts. Images of smog-choked cities and rivers so polluted they caught fire shocked the public into action. Schools held environment-themed days, where children learned to plant trees and reuse materials. Recycling bins began to appear in neighborhoods, signaling a cultural shift toward environmental responsibility. Nature became sacred again, not just a place to visit, but a cause to defend. Earth Day wasn't just an event, it was a generational wake-up call that echoed far beyond April. The environmental movement of the 1970s thus transformed ecological concerns from fringe issues into central components of American political discourse. The 1970s heralded the golden age of American muscle cars, with vehicles like the Chevrolet Camaro and Dodge Challenger epitomizing the era's automotive prowess. These cars were characterized by their powerful V8 engines, aggressive styling, and performance-oriented features, capturing the imagination of a generation seeking speed and freedom on the open road. The 1970 Dodge Challenger, for instance, offered a range of high-performance options, including the formidable RT model equipped with a 426 Hemi engine. Similarly, the Chevrolet Camaro Z/28 combined sleek design with impressive horsepower, making it a favorite among enthusiasts. However, the muscle car era faced challenges as the decade progressed, with rising insurance costs, fuel crises, and stricter emission regulations, leading to a decline in production and performance. Weekend street races became ritual, and owning a muscle car was a rite of passage for many young Americans. Gas stations turned into gathering spots, where drivers compared engines and revved their exhausts for fun. Car magazines showcased roaring beasts with names like Firebird, Charger, and Roadrunner. Hollywood glorified them in chase scenes, cementing their image as symbols of rebellion and raw power. Even as regulations closed in, the legend of muscle cars only grew, turning them into collector icons. Despite these setbacks, the legacy of 1970s muscle cars endures, symbolizing a time when American automotive engineering prioritized power and style. The 1970s were a vibrant period for fashion, marked by a diverse array of styles that reflected the decade's social and cultural shifts. From the bohemian influences of the hippie movement to the glitz and glamour of disco, fashion became a means of self-expression and rebellion against traditional norms. Bell-bottom jeans, platform shoes, and psychedelic prints dominated the early part of the decade, while later years saw the rise of tailored suits and minimalist aesthetics influenced by punk and new wave movements. The era also witnessed the mainstreaming of ethnic-inspired clothing, with designers incorporating elements from various cultures into their collections. This eclectic mix of styles underscored a broader societal embrace of individuality and experimentation, making the 1970s a defining decade in the evolution of modern fashion. Clothing racks in department stores exploded with bold prints, exaggerated collars, and unconventional silhouettes. People mixed and matched denim with sequins, tie-dye with leather, and kimonos with fringe. Runways and streets alike became stages for personal storytelling through clothing. It was the first time fashion openly celebrated imperfection and individuality on a mass scale. The 1970s proved that style could be political, playful, and powerful, all at once. The 1970s earned the moniker the polyester decade, as this synthetic fabric became ubiquitous in fashion. Praised for its wrinkle-resistant and low-maintenance qualities, polyester was initially celebrated as a modern marvel. However, its widespread use led to garments that were often uncomfortable and lacked breathability. The fabric's tendency to trap heat and moisture made it less than ideal for everyday wear. Despite its practicality, polyester's synthetic sheen and texture often resulted in clothing that was unflattering and visually unappealing. Entire wardrobes were dominated by polyester suits, dresses, and blouses that clung to the skin and shimmered under fluorescent light. It became the uniform of both office workers and partygoers, offering bright colors and futuristic looks that didn't age well. Fashion designers leaned heavily into this trend, mass-producing garments that emphasized quantity over comfort. The backlash grew slowly, first as jokes in sitcoms, then as real discomfort that consumers could no longer ignore. Eventually, the material became a symbol of fashion's blind faith in synthetic shortcuts. As the decade progressed, the public's infatuation with polyester waned, giving way to a renewed appreciation for natural fibers. The polyester overload of the 1970s serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of embracing synthetic solutions without considering comfort and aesthetics. Today, while polyester remains in use, advancements have led to blends that offer improved comfort and appearance, reflecting lessons learned from its overuse in the past. The legacy of polyester in the 1970s underscores the importance of balancing innovation with practicality in fashion. It reminds us that while convenience is valuable, it should not come at the expense of comfort and style. The era's polyester obsession is a testament to the complexities of fashion trends and consumer preferences. It highlights the cyclical nature of fashion, where materials and styles fall in and out of favor over time. The polyester phenomenon of the 1970s remains a significant chapter in the history of textile and fashion evolution. In the 1970s, leisure suits emerged as a symbol of casual sophistication, blending comfort with a touch of formality. These suits, often crafted from synthetic fabrics like polyester, featured wide lapels, flared trousers, and bold colors, reflecting the era's fashion sensibilities. Initially embraced for their versatility, leisure suits became a staple in men's wardrobes, suitable for both business and social settings. However, as fashion trends evolved, the popularity of leisure suits waned and they became emblematic of 1970s style excesses. Today, leisure suits are often viewed nostalgically, representing a unique chapter in fashion history that combined innovation with a distinct aesthetic. They were particularly popular among entertainers and salesmen, projecting an image of confidence, charisma, and modern flair. You could spot them in TV game shows, on dance floors, and in car dealership commercials, always gleaming, always loud. They offered a version of masculinity that was equal parts daring and flamboyant. The materials were stiff, the colors were electric, and the vibe was unmistakably disco. Yet for all their bravado, leisure suits reflected a fleeting dream of stylish ease that fashion would soon leave behind. Their fall from grace was as swift as their rise, becoming an instant visual shorthand for outdated tastes. They were lampooned in films, TV shows, and pop culture references throughout the 1980s and beyond. Yet, like many misunderstood icons of the past, the leisure suit has found new life in vintage shops and ironic fashion circles. What was once considered tacky is now celebrated for its boldness. Fashion, it seems, always finds a way to redeem itself. The pet rock phenomenon of the mid-1970s stands as a testament to the power of marketing and the era's penchant for novelty. Conceived by Gary Dahl in 1975, the pet rock was a simple stone sold as a live pet, complete with a custom cardboard box and a tongue-in-cheek training manual. Despite, or perhaps because of, its absurdity, the pet rock became a massive commercial success, selling over 1 million units and making Dahl a millionaire. The fad was short-lived, but it captured the public's imagination and highlighted the consumer culture of the time. Today, the pet rock is remembered as one of the most iconic and quirky trends of the 1970s. Its brilliance wasn't the product, it was the packaging, the story, and the perfect timing. People were ready to laugh at themselves, and this gag gift gave them the perfect excuse. Kids brought pet rocks to school. Adults gave them as stocking stuffers, and novelty shops couldn't keep them in stock. They were simultaneously a satire of materialism and a symptom of it. Dahl's idea proved that if marketed cleverly enough, even a rock could become a best friend. It reflected the growing absurdity of commercialism, how something entirely useless could become a must-have item if wrapped in a good story. The craze was a mirror to a culture willing to embrace silliness for the sake of being part of a larger moment. It offered an inside joke for the nation, one everyone was in on. The pet rock fad serves as a humorous footnote in marketing history, but it also raised questions about what we value and why. In the end, it was less about the rock and more about the story it let people tell. Mood rings, introduced in the 1970s, captivated the public with their promise of revealing the wearer's emotional state through color changes. These rings contained thermochromic liquid crystals that responded to temperature variations, shifting hues purportedly in line with the wearer's mood. While the scientific basis was tenuous, mood rings became a cultural sensation, symbolizing the decade's fascination with self-awareness and personal expression. They were both a fashion accessory and a conversation piece, reflecting the era's blend of style and introspection. Though their popularity has fluctuated over the years, mood rings remain a nostalgic emblem of 1970s pop culture. For teens navigating emotional growing pains, mood rings offered a bit of wearable magic. Friends would compare ring colors at lunch, guessing who was happy, stressed, or in love. They quickly became popular gifts at birthday parties and mall kiosks, nestled in velvet boxes next to lava lamps and peace sign necklaces. Even adults were drawn to the novelty, wearing them with both curiosity and a wink. The appeal wasn't in the accuracy, it was in the fantasy that maybe your feelings could be simplified into color. The allure lay in their mysterious promise that our deepest emotions could be decoded by a flicker of color. For many, wearing one was a lighthearted but meaningful way to express feelings in a decade obsessed with the inner self. The rings turned emotional exploration into a wearable game, which made them uniquely personal. Even today, mood rings spark curiosity and smiles, bringing us back to a time when we believed a ring could tell the truth. They may not have read our minds, but they definitely captured our imagination. Fondue parties epitomize the communal and experimental spirit of 1970s dining culture. Originating from Swiss traditions, fondue, melting cheese or chocolate for dipping, became a fashionable social activity in American households. These gatherings encouraged interactive dining, with guests sharing a central pot and engaging in a relaxed, convivial atmosphere. The trend extended beyond cheese to include oil fondues for cooking meats, showcasing the decade's culinary adventurousness. While fondue parties eventually declined in popularity, they left a lasting impression on social dining practices and remain a nostalgic hallmark of 1970s hospitality. Dining rooms transformed into social theaters, where long forks and bubbling pots took center stage. Friends huddled close to the fondue pot, laughing as they rescued a piece of bread or dropped one with dramatic flair. Hosts often showcased themed decor, wood-paneled walls, orange tablecloths, and matching fondue sets to complete the retro aesthetic. It was not just dinner, it was an event, a ritual, a conversation starter that stretched into the night. Even the lingering smell of melted cheese in the curtains felt like a badge of a night well spent. It was as much about the experience as the food, the ritual of dipping, sharing, laughing, and sometimes losing your bread in the pot. It encouraged longer meals, deeper conversations, and a sense of playful intimacy. Fondue pots became wedding gifts, party centerpieces, and even symbols of middle-class sophistication. The messiness was part of the charm, embodying the laid-back rebellion against rigid formality. Fondue taught us that food could be fun, communal, and a little unpredictable, just like the decade itself. Shag carpeting, with its deep pile and plush texture, became a defining interior design element of the 1970s. Available in a spectrum of vibrant colors, shag carpets added warmth and a tactile dimension to living spaces. Their luxurious feel underfoot made them a popular choice for bedrooms and lounges. However, the maintenance challenges, trapping dirt and being difficult to clean, eventually led to their decline in favor. Despite this, shag carpeting remains an iconic symbol of 1970s home decor, reflecting the era's emphasis on comfort and bold aesthetics. It was not uncommon for entire living rooms to be carpeted wall-to-wall in bright orange, emerald green, or deep burgundy shag, transforming ordinary spaces into plush sanctuaries. Cleaning them was nearly impossible with standard vacuums, leading to frequent frustration, yet people kept them because of their undeniable comfort. They became such a fixture of home culture that even advertisements marketed shag as part of the modern American lifestyle. Children would play on them, couples lounged on them, and they often replaced traditional furniture as primary gathering spots. Though their practical use faded, shag carpeting's cozy, indulgent spirit still lives on in retro designs. The 1970s kitchen was often characterized by appliances in avocado green and harvest gold hues. These earthy tones were a departure from the traditional white or stainless steel, infusing kitchens with a sense of warmth and modernity. Refrigerators, ovens, and dishwashers in these colors became standard, reflecting the decade's design trends. While initially popular, these color choices eventually fell out of favor, viewed as dated in subsequent years. Today, they are emblematic of 1970s interior design, evoking a sense of nostalgia and serving as a reference point for retro-inspired decor. Homeowners believed they were embracing the future of kitchen design, even though the color palette was deeply rooted in the past. Interior design magazines of the time showcased these tones proudly, calling them natural sophistication and the hallmark of forward-thinking homes. Entire kitchen sets, from blenders to bread boxes, were coordinated in matching shades, turning domestic spaces into curated exhibits. They weren't just appliances, they were statements of taste and personality. Even now, those same colors spark fond memories of slow-cooked dinners, hand-me-down recipes, and weekends spent at home. The 1970s embraced bold and eclectic interior design, characterized by vibrant colors, psychedelic patterns, and a mix of textures. Homes featured elements like patterned wallpaper, shag carpets, and unconventional furniture shapes, reflecting a desire for self-expression and individuality. This maximalist approach created visually stimulating environments that broke away from previous design conventions. While some found the aesthetic overwhelming, it represented a significant shift towards personalization in home decor. The era's over-the-top interior design continues to influence contemporary styles, celebrating creativity and bold choices. Walls were often covered in dizzying floral or geometric prints that seemed to pulsate with energy. Furniture might be lime green and curved like a banana, sitting next to a lava lamp and beanbag chair. Lighting was dim, ambient, and usually colored, turning every evening into a theatrical experience. The combination of materials like glass, chrome, and faux wood gave rooms a futuristic meets-nature hybrid feel. This era taught us that our homes could be extensions of our moods, dreams, and sometimes our wildest whims. Citizens band CB radio experienced a surge in popularity during the 1970s, becoming a cultural phenomenon beyond its original use by truckers. CB radios allowed individuals to communicate over short distances, fostering a sense of community and adventure. The trend was amplified by media portrayals and the allure of unique handles or call signs. However, the airwaves became crowded, leading to interference and regulatory challenges. Despite its decline, the CB radio craze of the 1970s remains a notable example of grassroots communication and its impact on popular culture. Movies like Smokey and the Bandit and songs like Convoy immortalized the CB lifestyle in pop culture. It gave ordinary people the thrill of having a secret language, like a civilian code. Families installed CB units in their cars for road trips, turning every highway into an adventure. The anonymity it provided let people connect freely, sparking conversations between total strangers. Though technology has evolved, CB radios left a lasting legacy in how we think about connection and identity on the move. The 1970s saw a pervasive use of earth tones in fashion and interior design, with shades like brown, orange, and mustard dominating palettes. These colors were chosen for their natural, grounding qualities, aligning with the era's back-to-nature movement. While initially comforting, the overuse led to a sense of monotony and datedness in later years. The saturation of earth tones became emblematic of the decade's aesthetic, influencing perceptions of 1970s style. Today, these colors are revisited with a more balanced approach, integrating them into modern designs with renewed appreciation. Living rooms and kitchens often looked like autumn exploded across every surface, from wall paint to carpet. Fashion followed suit, literally with suits, turtlenecks, and dresses in rust, ochre, and umber hues. Even cars were painted in these tones, turning highways into rolling palettes of soil and sunshine. The intent was to feel grounded and earthy, but the effect was sometimes visually stifling. Designers today borrow these hues sparingly, blending them with light neutrals to capture their warmth without the visual heaviness. DIY asbestos home repairs were once a weekend project, not a professional hazard. In the 1980s, homeowners took pride in doing it themselves, scraping tiles, pulling down insulation, cutting through old cement boards with their bare hands and maybe a dust mask, if that. Asbestos was everywhere, in popcorn ceilings, vinyl floor tiles, wall insulation, pipe wrap. It was cheap, durable, and deadly, though few knew how deadly. People inhaled fibers while remodeling bathrooms, sanding attic walls, or tearing out old basements. There were no warning stickers, no hazmat suits. You might remember helping your parents renovate, the air cloudy with dust and the room echoing with the sound of tools. What you could not see were the microscopic particles entering your lungs. Decades later, asbestos exposure was linked to serious illnesses like mesothelioma and lung cancer. Today, it is illegal in many building materials, and removal requires certified professionals and safety protocols. But back then, it was just part of fixing up the house. The risks were invisible, the consequences delayed. And as much as the air inside homes was quietly dangerous, people also put themselves at risk under the sun, slathered in baby oil and chasing the perfect tan. If you were a kid in the 1970s, chugging water straight from the garden hose was basically a rite of passage. You would be out playing tag, riding bikes, or building questionable tree forts and suddenly realize you were dying of thirst. No one ran inside for a water bottle. You went for the hose. You cranked the knob, let the sun-heated water blast out for a few seconds. and then put your mouth right on the nozzle. No one asked where the hose had been or what might be growing inside it. Rubbery taste? Totally normal. Mystery specks? Built character. Parents barely noticed unless you soaked your shirt. Nobody thought twice about what kinds of chemicals were leaching from the plastic or whether small bugs had made it their home. We just drank and kept running. But when it came to food, there were rules. Except during Halloween, when those rules took a break and you took candy from strangers with zero hesitation. If your grandmother had a nutmeg grater drawer, you already know this was not about convenience. It was about pride. Tucked away like a secret compartment, this tiny wooden drawer usually had a built-in metal grater inside, fixed to the bottom or back wall. You would slide it open, pop in a whole nutmeg, and grate just enough to finish your pumpkin pie or rice pudding. It was oddly luxurious for such a tiny task. People swore that freshly grated nutmeg was leagues above the powdered kind from the store. And in kitchens that ran on rituals, this mattered. Nutmeg had a smell that meant something. Holidays, Sundays, a warm drink on a cold evening. It was the finishing touch, the kind of detail that showed you cared about flavor, not just filling bellies. One twist of that drawer and the kitchen felt instantly more personal. But as time went on, spice blends got pre-mixed, and the grater drawer seemed too specific for modern use. Most disappeared when newer cabinets came in. The metal rusted, the drawer warped, and eventually it was either nailed shut or tossed out with the old silverware. But once, it was a mark of a thoughtful kitchen, one where flavors came from effort, not a jar. Next time you taste store-bought eggnog, ask yourself, what tiny traditions did we leave behind? Speaking of things built right into the house, you are not going to believe what kind of doors were hiding inside the walls. For your milk. Picture this. You wake up, walk to the side of your kitchen, and open a tiny little door built right into your house. Behind it, a bottle of fresh milk, cool and ready to pour, maybe even some butter or cream depending on the day. No, it is not magic. That was the milk door, also called a milk chute. These small pass-through compartments were genius in their simplicity. One side opened from the outside, where the milkman would quietly place the day's delivery. The other opened from inside the house, so you never had to go out in your slippers or bathrobe. It was the drive-through window before there were drive-throughs. These doors were more than convenient. They were a sign that the world once ran on a shared rhythm. Everyone knew when the milkman came by. You could even leave payments or notes inside. Some had little shelves, others had insulation. And most people never locked them, because who would steal milk? Of course, once grocery stores and home refrigeration became widespread, the milk door quietly disappeared. Sealed up, painted over, or just forgotten. But somewhere out there, behind layers of drywall, a few still exist. Hidden time capsules. Sunbathing with baby oil and reflectors was the ultimate summer ritual. You lay out in the backyard, on the roof, or at the beach, armed with nothing but a bottle of Johnson's baby oil and a silver reflector under your chin. The goal? Tan fast, tan deep, and tan dark. The shine from the oil made your skin sizzle, and the reflector bounced rays straight into your face like a heat lamp. Everyone did it. Magazines encouraged it. Tan lines were a badge of honor, peeling skin a minor inconvenience. Sunscreen, if it was used at all, was barely SPF 4. People believed a good tan was healthy. Doctors warned of sunburn, but nobody listened. Today, dermatologists beg patients to stop tanning, and laws limit tanning bed access for minors. The link between ultraviolet exposure and skin cancer is undeniable. But back then, summer meant bronze skin and beach bodies, no matter the cost. Sunburns turned into tans, blisters were shrugged off, and if the oil left you red and raw, you did it again the next day. The danger came slowly. Just like another invisible risk, many families kept right next to the medicine cabinet, in a tiny glass stick filled with mercury. The VCR, a marvel that arrived in the 1970s, was akin to a magician in a box, granting us the power to capture time itself. Suddenly, TV schedules no longer dictated our lives. We could record, rewind, and relive our favorite moments at will. The VCR was the herald of home cinema, a concept so revolutionary that even its hefty price tag couldn't dampen its allure. It's a testament to its impact that phrases like "be kind, rewind" are etched in the collective memory of a generation. As DVDs and streaming services emerged, the VCR's star faded, but its legacy of shaping family movie nights and introducing the world to video rentals lives on. Warming drawers used to be the quiet hero of the kitchen, especially when dinner was not ready all at once. Tucked just below the oven, this thin, shallow drawer kept plates warm so that food would not go cold before it reached the table. You would set it to low, slide in your dishes, and when the roast came out, everything was ready to serve piping hot. This feature was a nod to formality. Meals meant something, and every detail mattered. Back then, no one wanted to pile roast beef onto a cold plate. But as life sped up and microwaves took over, warming drawers started disappearing. They took up space. They were easy to forget about. And soon, they felt like a relic of a more elegant time. Builders stopped including them in standard models, and even higher-end kitchens started to phase them out. Now, if you see one, it is usually mistaken for a storage drawer. But once, it meant warmth, literally and figuratively. It meant taking care, not just serving food. When did we stop setting the table like it was worth it? Let us talk about the Rumpus Room. If the living room was where adults behaved themselves, the Rumpus Room was where the kids got wild. Usually tucked away in the basement, this was the unofficial playground of every suburban household from the 1950s to the 1970s. Carpeted in wall-to-wall shag, lit by lava lamps, and often filled with beanbag chairs, dartboards, and mismatched furniture, the Rumpus Room was every child's dream and every parent's secret weapon. You could send the kids down there for hours, let them roughhouse, make noise, and burn off all that energy while the grown-ups enjoyed some blessed peace upstairs. It was not about looking nice, it was about cutting loose. Some had jukeboxes, others had board games stacked to the ceiling, and every now and then, you would find a couch that doubled as a trampoline. It was chaos, but it was controlled chaos. Over time, the idea faded as homes got bigger and open concepts took over. Now, everything is multifunctional. But there was something beautiful about a room that existed just for noise, mess, and memory-making. The name says it all, Rumpus. No rules, just vibes. But even in the loudest house, you still needed a way to call the kids upstairs. And you will not believe how we used to do that. Parents spanking kids in public did not invite whispers or legal warnings. It earned nods of approval. In the 1980s, discipline happened wherever it was needed. At the grocery store, in parking lots, outside churches, in schoolyards. If a child misbehaved, parents corrected them on the spot. A quick swat to the backside or a firm grip on the arm was considered loving firmness, not abuse. Older folks would even say, "That child will thank you one day." The phrase, "spare the rod, spoil the child," was not just quoted, it was lived. Nobody called the authorities. Teachers spanked students too. It was woven into the culture of consequences and correction. Today, that same act is considered public violence by many. It can lead to police reports, social worker visits, or even legal charges. And yet, for many who grew up back then, it was the way boundaries were taught. A smack on the bottom followed by a stern look was how parents said, "I love you enough to correct you." Right or wrong, it was real. But for a generation that was spanked in the cereal aisle, there was another truth. Most of them never buckled up in the car ride home. Leaving kids in the car while you shopped was not only common, it was considered efficient parenting. You would crack the window a little, toss a snack in the back seat, and tell them not to touch the gear shift. That was it. No seat warmers, no climate control, just the burning hot vinyl seats and a juice box to keep them busy. You would run into the grocery store, the post office, maybe even the mall, and come back 20 minutes later like it was nothing. Sometimes the kid was asleep, sometimes reading, sometimes playing with the door locks like it was a game. There were no viral videos or angry phone calls to the authorities. People assumed kids were tougher back then, or maybe they just really trusted that nothing would go wrong. Sure, you would get the occasional warning to not talk to strangers through the car window, but that was the extent of it. It was all part of the era's free-range approach to parenting. And while the kids were stuck in the car, the adults, they were likely sneaking a break of their own, somewhere smoky and very much on school property. A countertop garbage chute might sound like science fiction, but it was once the definition of practical design. Picture this: a hinged square in the middle of your kitchen counter that popped open to reveal a direct drop into the trash bin below. You could chop carrots, peel potatoes, and then sweep the scraps in one motion. No fiddling with a trash can lid, no extra step. Just a quick flick of the wrist, and it was gone. In mid-century kitchens, these were genius, especially when you were making big meals and needed all the counter space you could get. It made cleanup feel like part of the flow, not an afterthought. One swift motion and the mess was gone before it had time to become a problem. But eventually, people began to worry about smells, pests, and hygiene. Builders stopped including the feature, and home cooks grew wary of having an open hole in the counter, even if it had a lid. Most of them were sealed shut or removed entirely during remodels. Today, you will only find them in untouched kitchens from the 1940s or 1950s. They are almost always covered in laminate or chrome trim, like a forgotten piece of spaceship tech. What other clever shortcuts have we erased without even realizing it? Back in the days when phones had cords and privacy was a privilege, every hallway had a throne, and it was called the gossip bench. This was not just a chair. It was a hybrid masterpiece, a small wooden seat attached to a side table, designed specifically for long, dramatic phone calls. These benches were often placed right by the hallway phone nook, and if you were a teenager in the 1960s or 1970s, this was your favorite spot in the house. You would sit there for hours, twirling the phone cord, whispering about crushes, repeating, "No, you hang up," while your siblings paced in the background waiting for their turn. Some benches had a little drawer for pens and paper. Others had cushions and floral fabric, showing just how serious folks were about comfort during those marathon chats. It was furniture that served one purpose: conversation. But as phones got smaller, and then wireless, and then fit in your pocket, the gossip bench faded away. Today, they are vintage novelties. Back then, they were the nerve center of the household. And while you chatted away about school dances or new neighbors, something else might have been happening overhead. Quietly, from the ceiling, playing your favorite song. Imagine this. It is Sunday morning. You are eating breakfast, and faintly from above your head comes the sweet hum of big band music or the evening news. Driving after a few beers was seen as a minor risk, not a moral failing. In the 1980s, drinking and driving was common, so common it barely raised an eyebrow. Someone would leave a barbecue or a bowling alley, buzzed but smiling, and climb behind the wheel like it was just another Tuesday night. Sometimes they even brought a drink with them for the road, nestled between their legs or sitting in the cup holder before cup holders even existed. You might remember the clink of bottles under the seat or the faint scent of beer still on your uncle's breath as he drove you home. Nobody called it reckless, nobody flinched. It was treated the same way as driving tired or driving in the rain. Risky, sure, but manageable if you knew what you were doing. Breathalyzers were rare. Police might give a warning, not a ticket. Getting pulled over meant a brief conversation, not a night in jail. Today, of course, the laws have changed, and for good reason. Drunk driving kills thousands. Campaigns like Mothers Against Drunk Driving helped turn the tide, showing the public what casual drinking behind the wheel really cost. But back then, it was not about recklessness. It was about a culture that had not yet connected its habits with their consequences. And if the idea of casual drinking while driving sounds dangerous now, just imagine what the air was like inside your favorite restaurant. Max Headroom was supposed to be the future. A computer-generated, sarcastic television host who stuttered stylishly and wore sunglasses at night. He was the face of a dystopian digital world, equal parts cyberpunk icon and artificial intelligence with an attitude. Advertisers loved him, especially soda companies. So someone had the bright idea, let us give him a full television series. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. The Max Headroom show was visually interesting but narratively confusing. It tried to blend science fiction with satire, wrapped in glitchy editing and background noise. Most of the time, you were not sure if the show was broken or just being artsy. The plotline featured underground hackers, corrupt corporations, and a bleak media landscape, which ironically kind of predicted the internet. And Max, once a futuristic face of advertising, became more of a trivia answer at bar night. Still, his influence stuck around in weird ways. You can spot traces of Max Headroom in everything from video game villains to pop music videos. And if you thought that was sensory overload, wait until we talk about the time theaters tried to make movies smell like real life. It is hard to explain to someone today why there would be an ironing board in the kitchen. But for generations of American homemakers, ironing while cooking made perfect sense. You could press shirts while pasta boiled. The ironing board lived behind a narrow cabinet door, usually next to the fridge or near a pantry wall. You would open the latch, fold it down, and start ironing right there on the linoleum. It made the kitchen feel like a command center. Meals, laundry, homework, all happening at once. Some were even wired with built-in sockets, so you could plug in your iron without running cords across the room. There was something deeply efficient and strangely comforting about handling both dinner and dress shirts in the same breath. It made the kitchen feel like the heart of everything, not just the place where food was made. It sounds absurd now, but back then it was the ultimate multitasker's dream. Eventually, fashion changed, and so did fabrics. Permanent press clothing came along, and ironing became less of a daily ritual. Builders stopped including these wall units, and the ones that remained often jammed or collected dust. Today, a recessed ironing board in the kitchen wall feels like something out of a time capsule. You can still see the outline on painted-over cabinet doors in old houses, but no one's waiting on the kettle while smoothing out their slacks anymore. What else have we quietly stopped doing? You would toss it in and forget about it. That was the beauty of the laundry chute. A small hatch built right into the hallway wall or bathroom cabinet, leading straight down into a hamper, or sometimes directly into the basement laundry room. Just open, drop, and go. These vertical passageways were like magic portals for dirty socks and sweaty gym clothes. No more lugging baskets down 2 flights, no more arguments about whose turn it was. You just lifted the flap and let gravity do the work. Kids treated them like secret tunnels. Parents treated them like a godsend. But like many good things, laundry chutes eventually went out of style. Safety concerns popped up, especially with young kids and pets. And then there was the fire risk, as an open shaft could let smoke and flames move between floors. Add in the rise of compact laundry machines on upper levels, and suddenly the chute became obsolete. But admit it, there is still something satisfying about the idea of chucking a shirt through the wall. And speaking of walls, wait until you hear about the windows that were not exactly windows. Riding bikes without helmets was not considered dangerous. It was considered growing up. Children in the 1980s owned scraped knees, stubbed toes, and chipped teeth like badges of honor. You grabbed your bike and took off the moment the sun came up, racing friends through alleys, sidewalks, and backyards. The wind whipped your face. The world blurred past. Helmets were rare. If anyone had one, it was likely for motocross or medical reasons. Most parents did not even think to suggest it. Bike safety was taught through scraped elbows, not pamphlets. You rode with your shoelaces untied, your backpack swinging, maybe even one hand holding a soda. Some bikes had pegs, others had banana seats, but almost none had helmets. Today, many states have helmet laws, especially for children under 18. Schools give lessons. Parents buy reflective gear. But for that earlier generation, the only thing protecting your head was your luck and your reflexes. It was risky, yes, but also exhilarating. And while today's parents would call that neglect, the freedom to take risks was part of what made childhood feel so vast. Just like thumbing a ride down the highway felt like part of growing up for teenagers and travelers alike. Aquanet's scented hairspray line hit the shelves in 1968, hoping to combine the hold of a hair helmet with the charm of a perfume ad. The brand was already a household name. By then, Aquanet had glued more bouffants in place than any other product on the market. But someone in marketing must have thought, you know what this cloud of chemicals needs? Flowers. So they rolled out a special line of floral-scented versions. There were rose, jasmine, even a spring breeze blend. The idea was to give users a refreshing, elegant aroma while locking their hairstyle in place for hours. But it backfired, fast. The floral notes clashed with every other scent in a person's routine. The smells mixed into something that made elevators unbearable. To make matters worse, the scent faded quickly, leaving behind the signature Aquanet chemical musk, just with a weird dying flower twist. Even die-hard Aquanet fans could not justify it. By the early 1970s, the line quietly disappeared from shelves. Aquanet stuck around, but its foray into fragrance was a short and smelly detour. But if you want a true example of how the 1960s misunderstood its audience, just look at the British bike that tried to win over American teens by shrinking everything they loved. Before open concept became the norm, the kitchen pass-through window was the perfect compromise. It was a small rectangular opening in the wall, usually with a sliding panel or shutters, that connected the kitchen to the dining room. You could serve dishes straight through, peek out to check on guests, or whisper a message without leaving your post at the stove. It was functional and a little bit fun, like a drive-through for your own home. Kids loved it because it felt like a secret door. Adults loved it because it saved steps. These pass-throughs became iconic in mid-century ranch homes and suburban houses. But as walls came down and kitchens turned into wide-open living spaces, the humble pass-through lost its purpose. Some were plastered over during remodels. Others became awkward holes in drywall with no clear use. But once, they made kitchens feel like command centers, like you could be in two rooms at once. What did we gain when we knocked down those walls? And what subtle joys did we lose? We need to talk about the elephant, or maybe the shag, in the room. Carpeted bathrooms. Yes, wall-to-wall carpeting in the bathroom. Someone, somewhere, decided that stepping out of the shower onto tile was just too cold. So instead, they gave us plush floors that soaked up everything. These bathroom carpets matched the walls, the sink, the curtains. You had mint green bathrooms with mint green rugs from tub to toilet, pink bathrooms with matching fuzzy toilet seat covers and floor mats. It was peak comfort meets catastrophe. Over time, those comfy carpets turned into breeding grounds for mold, mildew, and mystery smells. Still, you have to give it credit for ambition. For a few decades, the bathroom was not just a place to get clean, it was a fully furnished retreat. These days, waterproof vinyl and ceramic tiles have reclaimed their throne. But every now and then, you stumble upon an old house with a powder blue plush floor and wonder what it was like to live so fearlessly. Now, if that made you raise an eyebrow, wait until you hear about the toilet paper holders. That could sing. Drinking and floating on rivers without life jackets was summer at its most carefree and most dangerous. You grabbed a giant black inner tube, packed a cooler full of beer, and drifted with your friends down slow-moving waters for hours. No one wore a life jacket, most could barely swim, but it was never about safety. It was about the sun, the music, and the freedom to float with no responsibilities. Some tied their tubes together. Others threw a rope to a canoe hauling more drinks. The river became a party, and the risks were part of the fun. You might remember falling out and laughing, feet searching for the rocky bottom, arms flailing before someone pulled you back in. Today, alcohol use while floating or boating is strictly monitored. Life jackets are required for anyone under a certain age in most states, and adults can face citations, or worse, for ignoring safety laws. But in the 1980s, there was no lecture, no patrol, just a lazy current and a long afternoon. And while the river taught you how to stay afloat, the classroom taught something entirely different, often with a wooden paddle. It looked like something straight out of a haunted dollhouse and somehow got greenlit as a beauty product. The Rejuvenique face mask promised younger, firmer skin through electrical muscle stimulation, which is a fancy way of saying it zapped your face with little shocks. Advertised by a former soap opera star, the mask wrapped around your head like a plastic exoskeleton and turned your facial routine into something that felt like a scene from a horror film. The idea was that the stimulation would tone your face like a gym tones your body, but customers mostly reported mild burns, numbness, and the distinct feeling that they had made a terrible mistake. Despite airing on television with the enthusiasm of a late-night miracle cure, it flopped hard. It was the kind of product that felt less like a beauty tool and more like a sci-fi movie prop that somehow escaped the set. Still, you had to admire the ambition. If you could survive the Rejuvenique, surely you could survive anything the 1980s had to throw at you. And as it turns out, that next throw was straight at the kids, because someone thought gym fashion should start in elementary school. If this took you back or made you wince, drop your 70s memory below, like the video, and subscribe for more blasts from the past.